Hello, my name is Wendela and welcome to my book talk on Among Others by Jo Walton. This is also my first video in a series consisting of book talks on books featuring disabled main characters. I myself have had a very long history with pain in my body, and I'm not gonna go into the details because it's complicated, guys, it's complicated. But the thing is, it affects me every second of my life, and people around me just don't understand. People generally tend not to understand if they haven't gone through a similar thing. Therefore it's so important and also so wonderful when you find a book who you can relate to and who can put all of your feelings into words. It has meant the world to me. So I began scouring the internet, booktube, in hopes of finding book talks and recommendations on books featuring disabled characters, but they were so hard to find. That made me really frustrated, so I thought, damn, now I'm gonna do one. Instead, I'm gonna do a whole series so people can come here and just click through the videos and get a lot of books featuring disabled main characters to choose from so they can find a book that fits them perfectly. I also think it's very important for able-bodied people to read about disabled characters because, well, it's very popular right now on BookTube to talk about diversity and so on regarding sexuality and ethnicity and whatnot, and that's so good. I'm so happy about that. However, I haven't seen almost any BookTuber do a video featuring all of the favorite books with disabled main characters, and that's very sad. That's very sad. With that said, let's dive into the book talk on Among Others by Jo Walton. I will first do a non-spoiler section when I describe what it's about and I tell my non-spoilery review and so on, and then we will delve into all of the spoilery details. Whoa. Among Others is written in diary form by this 15-year-old Welsh girl who has recently lost her twin sister in a car accident. The car accident also injured her leg severely, and this leg injury affects her day-to-day life. She is in constant pain and she also has to use a walking stick to get by. After the accident, she ran away from home because her mother had something to do with it, and more things, she's crazy and basically dangerous. And now she has been sent to a boarding school in England where she doesn't really fit in, you know, but she has her books, she reads a ton of books. They're sort of her savior and she always writes about them in her journal. Among Others is also a lot about fairies and it's slightly magical. Maura and her twin sister always played with fairies when they were younger, but they aren't beautiful, eloquent fairies like in The Lord of the Rings or something. They are very hard to understand. They aren't like you would want them to be. Maura also thinks a lot about magic, you know, she thinks her mother can do magic and that she is an evil witch. Maura tries to find a balance with her own magic. The magic system is so interesting because it isn't like poof poof. It's sort of when you were a child and you wished for something and you were like, if that came true, like had I made that happen because I wished. It's that kind of magic. So you can never improve it and you basically don't know if it was your work or if it just happened. I love this book so much. The first thing you notice about this is the writing style. It's just like water, you're just floating with it, and I also appreciate the way the authors use its commas. It's on point. And the journal entries feel very real. It feels just like a 15-year-old has written them. And I also love it so much. Yeah, I don't think you can understand how much I appreciate it, that she constantly writes about her leg. She's like, oh, today the leg was bad, or like, oh, today the leg fortunately felt a bit better. And she just mentions the leg in like short sentences constantly, because that's how it is, you know. You always have it in the back of your mind or in the front of your mind if it's very annoying. And I also love the way Mori adores books. She devours them and she writes about them in her journal, and they're literally the thing that makes her want to stay alive. I also thought it was so fun to read about a character who really had an interest who saved her and was this huge part of her life. Because often, you know, in books the main character likes to read it, but it's like mentioned 2 times at the beginning and then it's just forgotten when other things comes around. But here it was like the core. It was the core of the book that she liked reading it, like it was everywhere. I really appreciated that. And the magic system. This is one of the best magic systems I've ever read about. It's so real, it's so authentic. You know, other books like Harry Potter, Mortal Instruments, the magic system feels more imaginary, and there's nothing wrong with that, but this felt so real that it could easily exist in our world, and the world will be the same. So when I read it, in the back of my head, I just thought that the authors had experienced this. I don't know, even though it's magic and so on, I just, oh, she must have experienced this, because it felt so real. And I haven't read anything like it ever. So I give this book a big 5 out of 5 stars. I really recommend this to anyone who is disabled or able-bodied. I think everyone can enjoy this. I also have a friend who's like, this is her favorite book and she's not disabled. She just really feels with it because she loves reading and she loves the magic system. And now let's dive into all of the details. So all of the people who haven't read the book, bye, you must leave now. And let's jump into the discussion, shall we? For the discussion, I've got a new haircut, and I've also got my book with me, who I have marked full with quotes and scenes. The first quote in this book I marked is also the quote where I realized that this book truly got me and that it was going to be brilliant. It was this one. I want to run so much sometimes, my body aches with longing more than the pain from my leg. Those words are so scarily true for my life. I haven't been able to really run since I was 13 and now I'm 20, and I loved to run. I loved to move and use my body, and more in this book also loved to run, and I feel so much for her. I feel so much for her that she can't do that anymore. And I know how frustrating it is, how it just aches in your whole body. And I also love a quote that comes later on in the book where she says that everyone who can should always run in stairs. And that's so true. If you have a body that works, just use it, for heaven's sake. Another scene about being disabled I can really stand by is when Mori has a great leg day and she's just walking around in the city, you know, minding her own business, and then a lady tells her that, oh, you don't need a walking stick, your leg is just fine. And who the hell is she to tell her that? You know, Mori has days where the leg is so bad she can barely put weight on it. and her condition varies from minute to minute and day to day, and it's so typical for able-bodied people to think that if you can do one thing one moment, you're perfectly fine. Like, that's not how it works, and you feel like a fraud every time you have a great day, and that scene made me so angry. But I was so happy that Maury screamed at the woman and had this amazing outburst at her, even though it probably didn't help. But anyway, she has the right to get out her anger in the world. The last thing that I wanted to talk about pain about is the fact that the fairies didn't show themselves to Maury when she was in severe pain, that they ran away from it. And I saw this as a metaphor, as when you have this insane amount of pain that you have sometimes. You know, you have this regular pain and then you have like, whoa! And when you have those moments, it feels like you're sucked into this dark hole inside yourself, and the magic in the world is just drained. And you know that the things you loved before, you don't love them anymore. You don't see the magic that was there anymore, and it's horrible. It's just like Maury connects with the fairy magic when she has pain in her body. I think it was a quote about it here too. I'm gonna look it up. No wonder fairies run away from pain. They like to be entertained, and it's awfully boring. That's also so true. It's awfully boring to have a pain. You can't do anything. And I just thought that it was so beautiful to portray this metaphor about having pain and not being able to be a part of the magic in the world. If you have any other thoughts about how pain and disability was portrayed in this book, please comment down below. I will be overjoyed to discuss it with you. I'm gonna move on to the Halloween scene. The Halloween scene, such a beautiful scene. Every time I think about it, I almost start to cry. It's so emotional and so beautiful, and such an important scene in the book, you know. It's when Maury sees her twin sister at Halloween, and her twin sister tries to take her with her to the land of the dead, but Maury pushes her away when she realizes that she's just only halfway through the book Babel 17, and if she follows her twin sister, she won't know what happens. And she chose to stay in the world because of books, because of her love for stories, and that she still was curious about the world. And I also have moments like these because I feel down a lot of times because of the way my body is, but sometimes you come across a book or a musical or a song or a TV show or a movie or, you know, whatever, and you feel this joy inside yourself, and you're so thankful that you're alive, and you want to continue being alive because you want to discover all the other magical things that's out there for you in the world. And I don't know, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful how books literally saved Maury's life, and there are a lot of beautiful quotes about books in here, one being, there are some awful things in the world, but there are also some great books. Yes! I also think it's so cute how she raves about interlibrary loans all the time. And I mean, she's rightfully does that, because interlibrary loans are awesome, and I felt like the whole book was just like one big commercial for interlibrary loans and how they can save lives. And I was so happy that Maury found the book club at the library, and that the librarian at her school followed her to her first meeting, because otherwise she wouldn't have been able to go. That was such a nice gesture, and I was genuinely so excited for Maury because she finally had found this place where she belonged, where people listened to her and they wanted to have her in the conversation, which wasn't the case at all at school. She found her people, and it's so nice when you find a place outside your normal routines where you belong and where you are appreciated. I also loved the way Mori and her father connected with each other because of books and their love to sci-fi and fantasy. Like, the first time when they met, they didn't even look at each other. They just stared at his bookshelves and talked about the books. And I'm positive that if they both hadn't loved sci-fi that much, they wouldn't have had a good relationship at all. It's so nice that books can bring people together that otherwise would have a hard time connecting with each other. And it was also so nice that her father always sent Mori money to buy more books. The last thing I want to talk about is the ending of the book, where Mori finally confronts her mother, who she has been trying to run away from the whole book. And all through the book, Mori has also had this quarrel with herself whether or not to use magic, because her mother uses magic to control everyone and to get everyone to like her. And Mori think that is wrong because that means nothing is real. But at the same time, Mori wants to use magic to prevent harm. And I think she came to a wonderful conclusion at the ending, where she brought together two very different views on life. One that says that everything happens for a reason and your destiny is already planned and so on, which in some cases is almost insulting, because then you say it's like, oh, it should be war and it should be starvation and we should just accept those things. And the other worldview is that, oh, there is no destiny and no meaning at all, things just happen at random. And that's also kind of a sad view in the world also, but what Mori does is she brings those two together. Mori realizes that the universe has a plan and that you shouldn't intervene with those intricate webs that it is building, except for preventing harm. And I really like this, because this means that you should not accept everything, but most things are okay, but when things are harmful you should do something about it and you should intervene with the plan of the universe. And last but not least, I think it was lovely that at the end you could really see how much Mori has developed. She is very different from the place she was at the beginning of the book, where she had this excruciating pain from missing her sister. Mori feeling better was like a slowly development, so you almost didn't realize it before you were at the end and you were like, whoa, she has really changed. She feels much better now. She wants to stay in this world. I also thought the last sentence in the book was very funny. Oh, I finished this book and it was brill. Which was such a nice way to finish the book, because that just meant that she was continuing her life, continuing reading, continuing appreciating books. And that was everything for today, guys. Thank you for watching this book talk. This book means a lot to me, it really does, and I look forward to doing more book reviews on books with disabled characters. Please leave a comment down below if you have any recommendations in mind for me to read and to discuss with you guys. Until next time, take care of yourself, the people around you and the earth. Bye!